guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. As in other words, we call this Happy Finish Friday. So we are excited. I'm excited to be able to show you this today. You know, I usually will look at a lot of questions. I look at the before and after page. I actually get emails. We get customer service tickets, and people are like, tell Amy we need to know how to do this. And so I've been asked to know how to do a limestone kind of concrete finish. This has been something that I've done for years. I will tell you, I've actually done faux limestone walls. This is something that you can do as a finish on your fireplace. There's a lot of different venues. You can use this on a piece of furniture, just depending on where you want to be able to have a truly limestone looking finish. You could do this finish on clay pots. You could do it on urns. You can do it on things that you have outdoors, any number of things. So, and you're going to be able to create variables of glazes with it. So I'm going to take you through that process. If you've never tuned in before, my name is Amy Howard, and I am the mother maker with Amy Howard at Home. I develop all the products that we have, and that's why it's important for me to be able to teach you how to use these products properly and also be able to see the versatility, because I have a tagline of crafting a beautiful life. I want you to be able to learn things, to be able to apply them to your own home, and there's nothing more fun than rescuing a piece of furniture and restoring it to its former glory, and also being able to have it where you can use it in your home. All right, so today we're doing a do-it-yourself, a DIY limestone or concrete. You can change the color of it or kind of the look. It might go more concrete or more limestone depending on what color glaze we put on top of it. So one thing that's synonymous with doing more stone-type finishes is that it's got a lot of texture. You've got to make sure that you've got texture to it, and we're going to have to add something to our paint in order to do that. Now, the other thing I want to be sure and say, as you've popped on here, please be sure and say hello. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Send me some love. I love being able to see these names over and over again. As far as people that are, I say, you're our tribe. And so my tribe, we love doing finishes, we love learning, and we love applying them and then sharing them and supporting our group. If you're not part of our Amy Howard at Home before and after page, you need to join it. We've got about 20,000 people on that page that love showing their projects, and they love helping each other. It's a very positive, precious, sweet community that you would want to be a part of for sure. So, but here's the deal. If you're catching me live, great. I want you to know that I always love giving away things. And so I give away the things that we're working with. So today, I'm going to give away some glazing liquid, some Bauhaus Buff, and some Selznick Gray. And you're like, well, okay, so what about who's she giving it away to? So it's absolutely free. All you have to do is share the video. And I'm going to send all that free product to the lucky winner that their name is drawn out of all the electronic of what you shared. And then we're going to also pay to ship it to you. So that's it. So I'm going to be giving away a Bauhaus Buff glazing liquid and a Selznick Gray paint. So you're going to be able to learn how to do this finish. All right, so are you ready? All right, let's do this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to base coat. Now, I always work on trim pieces. Those of you who don't know, I worked with a lot of interior designers. We had 23 showrooms across the country to where I had a line of furniture that we sold. And so everything was all about creating finishes that my designers would be able to see that was going to be replicated on their piece. And so I always work on trim pieces to be able to show you how to do that. So I've got this ready. Now, I've got one product that you're going to go, what is she doing? We know it's Finish Friday, Amy, but have you lost your mind? No, I haven't. I promise this is going to be a really cool finish for you to replicate. I promise you're going to love it. It's going to catch you a little off guard, but that's okay. All right, so look at this. What do I have in my hand? Does anybody know what this is? Can you see it? I've got an overhead so they can see. All right, so this is actually an all-purpose sand. My preference is, we were actually, where we went was sold out of the white sand. I would prefer that you work with white sand instead of a natural color sand like this, if you can. But you want to don't go with the coarser. Don't get the one that has the rocks and things in it. I want you to get an all-purpose sand. All-purpose sand is perfect. If you can get white, that's even better. All right, and now guess what we're going to do? We're going to mix sand with Bauhaus Buff. So this is my Bauhaus Buff color. Guys, this is our #1 selling color next to A Good Man Is Hard to Find. And I wonder sometimes, is it because of the name? I named it after Gene Howard. But so many people are like, Amy, I love A Good Man Is Hard to Find. Such a great color. Bauhaus Buff is the perfect white. This is the one-step paint. So I've poured some in just a little cup here. And I'm going to put a little bit in so the bottom of my cup is covered up and I'm not digging it around. Now, and when I'm adding additives like this, I'll do just a little bit at a time. So I'm going to stir this up. Look at this. It's not going to dissolve. Some people have asked me, can we use sugar? The answer to that is no, because it's going to have a tendency to dissolve. You've got to be able to use a coarse product that is natural that you can put in here to be able to get the grain, because this is part of the beauty of the finish. And you can't put sand in a lot of other paints because they just don't coagulate. The one-step paint is a chalk-based paint. It has no VOCs, and it's beautiful for you to be able to create textures like this. All right, so I'm mixing it up. You see about how thick I am making it. Oh, watch, look at this. I want to add just a little bit more. Now, to those of you, especially my Old World Finishing group and my students, when you are creating finishes like this, and even those of you that are watching, you can have degrees. So you could have one that had just a little bit of sand in it, one that was a little bit coarser, and then one that was even coarser. That gives you variables. That's always a great thing to be able to do. And so I've actually got some that I mixed up right before we went live. So I did 2 parts sand to 3 parts paint. So I want you to be able to, that's my glaze, hold on, here we go. So this is, in my overhead, I'll show you, this is about what it's going to feel like. You see about how slow it is. It's kind of the consistency of sour cream. I always love using things that let you know what it is like with food, because we all kind of know it's like a yogurt or a sour cream. Oh, okay, Amy, I know that consistency. That's about the way you want to have it. So you can add a little bit more sand if you want to. If you're working on a full piece of furniture, I really suggest going on and making all of it for that piece, and then that way it can cover the entire surface area. Here's the other great thing. If you're working on an existing piece of furniture that you want to do this finish on, or a fireplace mantle or whatever, just clean it with clean slate first, and then you can put this directly on top of it. You don't have to prime it with anything. I'm starting on a raw piece, but you don't have to prime your piece in advance. This is going to bond to it just fine. That's what makes the one-step paint so great. You don't have to sand it, you don't have to prime it, you don't have to strip it. You can just clean it with a clean slate, and then you're ready to go. So the sand isn't going to change the properties of the paint at all. All right, so now I'm going to use a chip brush. I prefer not using a synthetic brush. Use a chip brush when you're applying this. It's going to give you a better application. And I love it, Laurie. Hey, Renee. Hey, guys. So please, when you pop on here, say hey. Tell me where you're tuning in from. I do love being able to see who's watching, and then ask me questions. I will go back in along with my team, and we'll look at the questions that you have and make sure to answer them for you. All right, so I'm going to take my chip brush, and I'm going to put it into my sand paint mixture. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And I'm just going to come here and paint it directly onto my piece, whether this is a piece of furniture that you've cleaned. And the other thing is, too, once you mix the sand into your paint, you're going to need to be able to work on this, say, within an hour or 2 hours, because what's going to happen is it's going to dry kind of hard, and it won't stay mixed up. So just apply it evenly. Get good coverage like this. And then we're going to allow it to dry. Now, I will tell you, I cleaned mine and dried it with a hairdryer. So you can speed up the process of it, and this allows you to be able to see what it looks like. Now, this is just Bauhaus Buff with sand in it, 2 parts sand, 3 parts paint. And you're going to notice it's going to give you this really beautiful texture like you would have from a stone. Now, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to take some 220 sandpaper, And if you've never watched me before, even if I'm working on a large piece of furniture, I'm always going to use small little squares of sandpaper. So you can tear them up or you can cut them up and use them. There's no need in using large sheets. What I want you to do, and I always do this when I'm working on things with texture, I will close my eyes and I'll feel of it. I'll feel of areas that really bother me that are standing out a lot, and that's where I'm going to come back with my sandpaper. Now, when you're sanding sand in your paint, it's more of a kind of a hit and miss. Now listen, you'll be able to hear it. It's not this, it's more of a, and that allows you to be able to have where a little bit more control, you're not going over it as heavy. And for me, it's a process that I've gotten used to as far as glazing. And after I've gone over it, I'll kind of feel it. I like the feel of it. It's got a little bit of texture to it, but there's nothing that's standing out to me very much. Now, on this edge right here, I am going to come back and soften that just a little bit. Because what we want to do, we want to make sure after we've added this sand to it to get it nice and soft. Because if you've got areas that are standing out a lot, you know what's going to happen? When we go back to actually glaze it, it's going to grab to those areas instead of you being able to have control to be able to give it some color. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, after we've allowed this to dry, and I hit mine with the hair dryer, so you can dry it fairly quickly. Otherwise, it is going to add a little bit drying time by adding the sand. So you probably want to allow this about an hour and a half to be able to dry because it's going to be fairly thick. And you're not going to put on 2 coats. 1 coat's going to do it. All right, so now I'm going to take a little bit of such a pretty color. We talked about this earlier. This is Serengeti Gray. Now, Serengeti Gray, can you see in the overhead that it's kind of a taupey gray color? It's not as brown as like one that I was working with earlier was a Selznick Gray. Selznick Gray will have a tendency to look more like concrete. This is going to have a tendency to look more like limestone. All right, so I'm going to take three ingredients. If you've not watched me when I've done glazing before, this is going to be a really good skill for you to be able to learn because glazing is a process that can make a huge difference in your finishes. So I'm going to need glazed over, if you can see that. I'm going to need glazed over, water, and my one-step paint. So again, I'm working with Serengeti Gray. So I'm going to take a little bit of that out, and I'm going to be doing a recipe for you to be able to remember. It's 1 part paint, 1 part water, 1 part glazed over. Those 3 ingredients makes a colored glaze. Now, this is a process that you can use even if you're not doing like a sandy stone finish because it can give you a glazed look. But this is perfect when you're wanting to be able to create a limestone or a concrete or stone finish. It's absolutely fabulous. All right, so now I'm going to pour in my glazed over. It's clear. It will mix with any color. Then I'm going to add just regular tap water. Now, depending on your glaze thickness, if you have a thicker glaze, you're going to have less control. If you have a thinner glaze, it's going to kind of get down in the crevices, and you will need a dry chip brush to be able to get it out of the crevices, and I'm going to show you what that is in just a minute. So you want to stir this up really good. Again, my glaze is 1 part Serengeti Gray, 1 part glazed over, and 1 part water. So stir it up really good. There again, if you're just now popping on and watching, I want to say, hey, my name is Amy Howard, and this is Finish Friday. It's where I take time out to be able to show you how to create different finishes to be able to use on your furniture. Anything outdoor. Today I'm showing you how to create a limestone finish, and it's absolutely fabulous. All right, so now I'm going to use another chip brush. I don't use synthetic brushes when I do this. It's important with your glazing to be able to use this chip brush with the sand. It's going to be much more, the delivery of it, you're going to be happier with it. So make sure that your brush is completely saturated. It's got some of that pigment in there. And then I'm going to offload it just a little bit like this. And then we're going to apply it. Look at the difference. Can you see as far as it's not too much darker? Because there again, we're going for a natural stone kind of concrete look. You're going to cover the entire surface. Now you're going to come back with a lint-free rag. And I'm going to model it. Can you see the area here where we had it, where it was sitting there? Now I'm pouncing it off. You can have some areas that will be just a little bit darker than others. Now I just realized, is it possible to get my hairdryer over here so I can dry it for them? Okay. So now I'm pouncing that off. Now here's the deal. It's kind of everywhere, so it's looking solid. One thing that we can't do with this, you know, where a lot of times when we come back with our finishes, we'll follow up with wax. We cannot use a clear wax or light antique wax with this. Why? We do not want a sheen. That's part of the beauty where a lot of chalk-based paints you work with, you have to seal it because that way it's not going to hold up. The one-step paint, you don't have to worry about that. This is all about having a beautiful matte finish, so we do not want sheen and you do not have to seal it. Okay, so we're going to have my studio assistant. We're going to dry that really quickly. All right, so I want to look at some of your questions. Where's the best place to purchase sand? Okay, Chelsea, I would say any hardware store, any craft store that has sand is going to be fine. You just want to make sure that you have an all-purpose sand. I preferably like for you to get white, but it's just like today. You see, when I mixed mine up, this is the sand, this is the only one that they had. All they had was the brown all-purpose sand. What we're wanting to be able to go for is the granular size, so this is fine. It's not a fine, it's kind of a medium grade, but I just don't want you to have rocks in there. The rocks are going to fall out and it's going to give you a mess. So we can go with brown or white, but any hardware store should have it, and it's great. Now, when we talk about colors, if you're going to be doing a limestone or concrete finish, it's going to be best that you start with Bauhaus Buff. Bauhaus Buff can have any number of glazes put on top of it, like you can go into your grays or your browns, but we're doing natural stones here, so we want to be able to stay natural. This is not an area that you want to really be going in for color. Okay, so now this is dry. I have that glaze everywhere. Now I can come back and I can add another glaze that's maybe got a little bit darker color. So this is a glaze that I made up, and this is actually of Selznick Gray. So I can take my chip brush. I'm just going to dip a little bit in here. And this is going to be more for like shadowing. I'm just going to do kind of here and there. You can see this, the difference is so slight. This is about building this up to where you've got depth and you've got texture, but the beauty of it is actually when you're feeling of it, that it feels like it's got that texture, that limestone to it. There's such an issue when I am doing things on camera for you to be able to see it, because in person you can't see it, where if it was on a piece of furniture, it's really yummy. This isn't about it being real dramatic as much as it is to look more authentic. So I'm going to let you dry that for me again. Now, this is one that I did earlier. This has a darker brown. I actually didn't start with the Serengeti Gray. I actually did the Selznick Gray over all of it. So it allows you to be able to see, this looks more like concrete. Now, can you kind of see that in the overhead? When you touch this, it actually feels divine. I think about putting this on a console, being able to put this on even a fireplace mantle, outdoor objects, your pots. So you can take a clay pot, and a lot of you like to do molds and that type thing over it. This finish on a clay pot is absolutely divine. You could come back on top of it if you wanted to with some of our stencils, our gel ink, and maybe say Le Fleur or some French words, but it looks authentic, it really feels great, and it's something that you can set outdoors. Now, you do not have to seal this, that's very important, but I do want to show you how you can make a big difference. So I do have a little bit of my dark antique wax. I'm going to take this, thank you so much. So I've got two colors. I'm going to take my dark wax. Now, I'm breaking the rules here. Y'all are like, Amy, you always tell us never put dark wax on by itself. That's right. But we aren't wanting a sheen at all. And I am just wanting you to be able to put on enough to be able to add just a little bit of accent. Now look what I did. I loaded up my dark brush, loaded up my dark wax on my synthetic brush, on my chip brush, and I'm offloading it. I've almost got all of it off, but I've got it evenly distributed on my chip brush. So now I'm going to come just on the edges, just a few places, to be able to give it just a little bit of depth. And what's going to happen, because it's got so much texture, it's going to grab that. And I've got to make sure that I don't overdo it. This is like a little dabble do ya. And then I'm actually going to come back and try to wipe some of it off, but it's very little. I'm not going to do any more than that. I love that. That's so pretty. I wish you could see it in person. All right, so now I'm going to take my darker one. This looks a little bit more like concrete. This would be so fabulous on a detailed console. Love it. With a stone, a slick, cold stone top. We talk about textures. This is a real gritty, beautiful stone, limestoney texture. To be able to have a cool dark green marble or a Monte Carlo brown chocolate marble on top of this would be divine, because it's a cool, slick surface with this texture. You'll love it. All right, so now you know what else I'm going to add? Dust of Ages. The Dust of Ages is going to give me this yummy gray color that I'm going to want to be able to add. So I'm going to have, I don't have any more chip brushes. Hold on. Maybe I can get by with this one. I'm all good. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit of Dust of Ages. And what's going to happen, this dust is going to grip to the texture that I've got on my limestone. Now, I didn't add any of my clear wax or light antique wax, so I'm not going to get a sheen. The whole idea of this is that I'm creating a limestone finish, that I'm wanting to be able to have that to where it adds a natural element. It's going to get down in the crevices. I am loving this color. This is my color. This is the one. This is Serengeti Gray Glaze. This would go with anything. There again, we're not going for sheen. It's all about texture. Can you see that? This is absolutely yummy. I did it with Bauhaus Buff, mixing my sand mixture. If you're just now popping on, please go back and do #replay, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm showing you how to create a gorgeous, very authentic looking lime finish today. Limestone, look at that. That's absolutely yummy. Bauhaus Buff first, Serengeti Gray Glaze. Now this one is a little bit darker. This is done with my Selznick Gray. It looks a little bit more like concrete. It's browner, but with a beautiful brown marble or stone on top of it, it would be beautiful. And I'm just buffing this to get a little bit of my Dust of Ages off. I've got just a tiny bit of sheen, but not much. But I'm just going to tell you, this is the winner today. You can kind of see the difference. They're both great, but I am loving the Serengeti Gray. So I want you to be able to see being able to add things to the one step, the fact that it doesn't have to be sealed, it allows you so much versatility. You can definitely use this on products outside, whether it's your pots, whether it's furniture, if you want to be able to use it on a fireplace, if you want to use it on something to be able to make it have an authentic looking stone finish. You can do it on furniture too. Remember, you don't have to prime it. All you have to do is clean your furniture with Clean Slate, add the sand, do the Bauhaus Buff, and then glaze it. And it's going to be absolutely beautiful. What I want you to do is be sure and take pictures of your projects, put it on our before and after page, Amy Howard at Home before and after, because guess what? It's going to be your turn to enjoy the bragging rights. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Be sure to #replay and ask your questions. I'll be answering them. Share this video because I want to give these products away. And all day Friday, all day Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to be letting y'all share. And then on Monday, we'll announce the winner. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and see you at the estate sales.